And we do thank you so much for joining us live. We are right here in Somabula. We've just been witnessing another exciting technological development that has been officially launched by the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe. His Excellency Comrade E.D. Mnangagwa, as he launched fiber link right here. We are joined with, of course, the former Minister of ICT, Post and Courier Services, who is also the Minister of Information Broadcasting Services. Honorable Muskweli, we are so much happy and excited to have you here once more again. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Today we've just launched a very exciting ICT policy, a lot of activity that I know, of course, you have been pushing for a couple of years. What does this mean to you when this project is finally officially launched right here? And of course, I know you're now the minister of a different ministry altogether.
Thank you so much, Tony. Perhaps the most important aspect is to highlight the visionary leadership of His Excellency President E.D. Mnangagwa, in that he identified the digital economy as one of the key pillars that is going to transform the macroeconomic landscape of our country. And in doing so, he ensured that he appointed younger ministers to be able to tackle some of the digital economy challenges that faced the country before. I was also privileged to have been appointed by His Excellency, the President, Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa. And the first task in terms, after taking the oath of office, is that he directed us that we should develop a smart solution. We should develop the Smart Zimbabwe Master Plan. We then went further to develop the National Broadband Plan, which also takes care of the technical details, the financial issues and the ICT gaps across the country, the deficiencies that we currently have, and also the infrastructure digital master plan that we factored in as we worked together to close the digital divide between urban and rural areas, with one principal goal to ensure that we have ubiquitous connectivity, with also another goal to ensure that we connect the unconnected. So in the Smart Zimbabwe Master Plan, this is where you have the Smart Health, which utilizes telemedicine. This is where you have the National E-Learning Strategy, which is computerizing, equipping and training teachers and pupils and learners across the country. This is where you also have the Smart Agriculture, which is the utilization of the Agriculture Information Management System to be able to manage the agricultural revolution. As you are aware that Zimbabwe was assigned the Smart Agriculture assignment in terms of the Transform Africa Summit and also the Smart Africa Summit. He went further to direct that we should develop a modern, sustainable national ICT policy, which has been launched today, and also the development of the artificial intelligence framework, which is yet to be finalized. And I trust that my successor, the Minister of ICT, Postal and Courier Services, Honorable Tatenda Mavetera, will be in a position to be able to finalize some of the great works. But not only did His Excellency Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa manage to ensure that the digital economy is prioritized, he also established the ZITCO factory to be able to produce ICT gadgets across the country in order to support various e-government initiatives. At the same time, he also set up the special e-government unit in order to manage all e-government unit activities, utilizing a whole of government approach, because this is a cross-cutting function in government, as we focused primarily to ensure that we establish a G2C, a G2E, and also in order to ensure that the government communicates with the citizens of our country.
Yes.
But at the same time, to further buttress such activities, he allocated resources for the development of data centers across the country. And in order to support innovation, he set aside and launched the innovation drive to train our young students, to train academics, to train non-academic people, so that they can contribute towards the development of homegrown ICT solutions to develop homegrown artificial intelligence algorithms in order for us to ensure that we've got data sovereignty and digital sovereignty. So in terms of the expansion works, there has been a lot of robust expansion in terms of optic fiber. There has been also his capability as a visionary leader, the president, that he ensured that he created a magnetic investment climate which has allowed the private sector to be able to flourish. Today's commissioning of the BCS fiber network, which utilizes a plow, rolling stock locomotives to be able to deploy fiber across the country, from Bight Bridge to Victoria Falls all the way to Harare, and now they will soon be working on linking with Mutare. So all this investment climate that has also ensured that we developed from second generation to fifth generation. It also allowed the proliferation of the utilization of information communication technology through connecting all health institutions in order to support the telemedicine project. Part of the infrastructure also includes the data centers that is managed to develop and deploy across the country, and principally to secure funding for the NMBB Phase 3, which is going to transform the ICT sector. So all these are some of the achievements under the leadership of President Idi Mnangagwa.
I can understand your depth as far as the ministry is concerned. You've been the Minister of ICT for a very long time, and today we've witnessed a very long fiber optic cable, 861 kilometers being launched. Some people are speaking of duplication of services and questions of redundancy as well. Was this very important, especially when we had our own private and state-owned enterprise like Teo One already running these same fibers? What is your feeling towards this?
The policy direction which we got from His Excellency the President, Dr. Idi Mnangagwa, was that we need to be able to balance service provision and consumer protection in the context of ensuring that we should develop a matrix that is going to allow for the actual tracking of costs. This is precisely why we got guidance from him, and we managed to implement the telecommunications pricing index, which follows, tracks each and every cost in terms of ensuring that there is business viability and data affordability. But also of principal importance was a deliberate approach utilizing a stakeholders approach for us as a ministry then, when I was Minister of ICT, to be able to work together with all stakeholders utilizing the infrastructure sharing policy, which we also legislated and consolidated to ensure that at each and every site we come up with a policy whereby we remove 2 extra base stations and we allow for the full functional utilization of 1 base station, which cuts down costs in terms of maintenance, it cuts down costs in terms of fuel.
Why are you not doing the same with the fiber?
It cuts down in terms of everything. So the utilization of infrastructure sharing policy is one of the key achievements under His Excellency President Idi Mnangagwa. But at the same time, the same applies. The licensing framework allowed BCS to be able to deploy fiber where there was no fiber. And as you saw today, that the whole of government approach is being utilized in terms of ensuring that the National Railways of Zimbabwe, under the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure Development, will be able to tap and also to transform their communications infrastructure from analog to digital. But at the same time, as BCS deploys infrastructure across the country, they're also going to be able to connect health, educational and government institutions. All this, as you witnessed, that all ICT sector players worked together with BCS under the framework of infrastructure sharing.
Okay. Let me bring you back to the ministry that you are now heading as the Minister of Information. The United States Embassy has just recently introduced sanctions on Zimbabwe. We have witnessed some members, specifically your president, also being reintroduced, and his wife and 11 other members have been on the sanction list. And we also witnessed Zimbabwe and certain companies being removed from the sanctions. What is your reaction to these sanctions as far as the U.S. Embassy is concerned?
The first and most fundamental issue that we need to clarify is that the United States of America principally is not the international judiciary country with jurisdiction to be able to sanction unilaterally outside international laws. The United States of America is not the policeman of the world. The United States of America is not the regulator of international affairs in the world. We have designated United Nations frameworks, and the United Nations has condemned the illegal unilateral imposition of sanctions on Zimbabwe. Because the background to the sanctions is that Zimbabwe decided to redistribute land, which was a colonial injustice that had been perpetrated by the white settler illegal colonial regime, utilizing various instruments, which includes the Land Tenure Act, the Land Apportionment Act, the Grains Act, the Dog Tax, the Art Tax, all those illegal instruments in targeting to ensure that there's a totalitarian dispossession of the indigenous people's economy, the totalitarian dispossession of the economy from the indigenous Zimbabweans to the white minority settler regime, which was in control of our country from the first Chimurenga until we overthrew the illegal white settler regime. So after a number of years, the government of Zimbabwe utilized its political, economic, and legislative framework to be able to change the legislation in order to economically transform the agricultural sector, in order to correct the colonial injustices. That is when the American government then issued and illegally imposed unilateral sanctions. So to Zimbabwe, the most important issue is that partial, piecemeal removal of sanctions is a non-starter, it's a no-brainer. We want and we still want to urge the American government to remove all the sanctions unconditionally, and also to thank and appreciate our SADC neighbors, SADC countries, the African Union, and other progressive nations for the support to unilaterally remove the unilateral sanctions that were imposed on Zimbabwe.
Legislature, the Church Defer of the United States yesterday said that this opens up an opportunity for Zimbabwe to reform in terms of human rights abuse, corruption, and stuff like that. What is your position as far as the allegations of human rights and corruption are concerned, which is what they say is the major reason why they're having sanctions on Zimbabwe?
Zimbabwe is a country with enough institutions that are equipped, that are resourced to be able to develop our democracy. The background is that historically we fought for our democracy. We fought for one man, one vote. The issue related to political persecution of political opponents is absolute nonsense, given the reality that there is no known record of political persecution of any opposition politician in our country. The reference perhaps could be that the American government should be able to separate political issues from common criminal issues, and of which, in terms of our laws of our country, no one is above the law, and anyone who is going to participate in illegal criminal activities will be arrested in terms of the laws of Zimbabwe. And in terms of corruption, The Second Republic has strengthened and consolidated legislation, capacitated and resourced anti-corruption institutions. Under the leadership of President Idi Mnangagwa, we have witnessed a number of high-profile corrupt cases being prosecuted. And the United States of America, as I have indicated, is not the prosecutor general of the world. Neither is the United States of America the human rights defender of the world. We practice democracy in our country for our own good, and in terms of our laws, and in terms of our constitution, for our own good.
They say people like Jacob Ngari Vume, Job Sikala, Fadzai Mahere, and even Hopewell have been prosecuted on crimes that do not exist, and these are political prosecutions, not criminal prosecutions. What is your response to that?
Anyone who incites violence to be meted on any citizen of the country will be arrested, prosecuted, and we have a very viable judiciary system. We need to separate political issues and common criminal issues.
They were
by
acquitted
virtue
by the High Court, these people, for
that it also underlines the importance of our democracy. That also underlines the importance and independence of our judiciary institutions. But law and order has got to be maintained by law enforcement agents. But it is for the judiciary to be able to acquit or to convict an individual. That sets the parameters, the basis and the foundation of part of our democracy. This is precisely why Job Scala is out, because there has been a legal process from arrest, prosecution to the judiciary, and this is why he was also acquitted in terms of some of the cases, but also convicted in the other issues. So we need to separate criminal and political issues.
what is the government position on corruption and how we are fighting it?
As I've already indicated, that under His Excellency President Idi Mnangagwa's government, we've put in place structures, we've put in place resources, we've also put in place and strengthened law enforcement agencies to have arresting powers. For example, under the leadership of President Idi Mnangagwa, he set up SACU, set up ZAC, strengthened and resourced the Zimbabwe Republic Police. He also strengthened and capacitated the National Prosecuting Authority. But he also ensured that we have a vibrant, independent and impartial judiciary system.
We also the famous resignation letter by Adelaide Chipuguru, and you were included in the letter. So I just want to know your comment on what she said.
No, there is no local stand in terms of what she alleges. But at the same time, there are corporate governance issues that have to be followed. There is also financial management that has to be sound. But the responsibility in terms of hiring or firing of executives is upon the board. And as of now, what I am aware of is that she resigned from employment. And she never mentioned all those other nefarious allegations. But she resigned in terms of the laws of our country. Thank you.
That was a long one.
Thank you.